Oh, I remember that day like it was burned into the back of my eyelids. Her sister's wedding, one of those lavish, wine-fueled circuses where everyone's fake smiles are stretched tighter than the Spanx under their pastel dresses. I'd worn a tailored navy suit, shaved, shined my shoes. I showed up looking like someone who belonged in the picture. And yet, when it came time for the family photos, guess who got benched? Can you stand over there for a moment? Against the wall? It was Claire, my wife's cousin, self-appointed social director, with that tight-lipped smile people reserve for waiters who forget their drink order. She barely looked at me as she pointed to the shadows near the coat rack, like I was a fire extinguisher ruining the aesthetic. I glanced back at the lineup. My wife was front and center, laughing a little too loud at something her plus one said. That new friend of hers. His name was Brett, of course it was. Polished teeth, overpriced cologne, a haircut that screamed gym selfie enthusiast. He wasn't even family. Just her guest. And yet there he was, shoulder to shoulder with her and the rest of them like he'd been issued a bloodline backstage pass. I stood there. For maybe 5 seconds. Maybe 6. The kind of seconds that drag out like slow drips from a leaky faucet. And then I walked. Right past the hired photographer. Past the DJ spinning Ed Sheeran like it was a holy sacrament. Right up to the gift table. That's where I saw it, our envelope. Heavy, thick. We'd put in cash, more than I'd liked. But it's family, she said. Of course. I slipped it into my jacket pocket. Looked up just long enough to catch a few eyes on me, confusion painted across their champagne-warmed faces. And then I said it. Calm. Controlled. The kind of calm that hides a storm. Don't worry, I said, loud enough for Claire and anyone else playing gatekeeper. I'll stay out of the picture. That got her attention. That really got her attention. Because the moment I turned toward the exit, I heard it. High heels against polished wood. A familiar voice breaking through the bubble of laughter and clinking glasses. Jason. Jason. Wait. I didn't. But that's just the beginning. I was halfway to the car when I heard the clack of her heels echo across the pavement. Jason. I didn't stop. Not because I didn't hear her. I did. I just didn't feel like obeying commands anymore. I'd played the part of the patient husband long enough. The one who'd wait quietly on the sidelines while she danced in and out of respect like it was optional. Jason. Would you can we talk? I stopped walking. Slowly turned around. She was standing under one of those flickering parking lot lights, the glow making her look like a ghost in chiffon. Her dress, silver, form-fitting, too glamorous for her sister's wedding, hugged her like it had been selected for someone else. Her makeup was flawless, but her eyes were frantic. She looked like someone caught cheating on a pop quiz, still holding the answer sheet. Go on, I said. Talk. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. I watched her scramble for a version of the truth that didn't make her look guilty. It's not what you think, she finally said. That one. That's the classic opener. Like a magician's wave of the hand, hoping I'd forget I already saw the trick. Then help me, I said, voice calm but razor-edged. What is it, then? Why was I standing by a coat rack while some stranger you brought is posing in my place? He's not a stranger. He's a friend. I nodded. And I'm your husband. At least I used to be. She stepped closer, the scent of her perfume catching in the wind. The same scent she used to wear when things were still good. Before everything started to rot behind the wallpaper. It wasn't my idea, she said. Claire thought. Claire's an accessory. You're the architect. That shut her up. She looked down, then back at me, like she was still trying to figure out whether she should play the victim or the villain. You embarrassed me, she said quietly. I actually laughed. A bitter, sharp thing that felt good coming out. You're worried you were embarrassed? She crossed her arms, defensive, irritated. That familiar little flinch when things didn't go her way. You took back the gift. Damn right I did, I replied. I also took back my dignity, my patience, and the last shred of hope I had that maybe, just maybe, you still respected me. Silence. Only the buzzing of the parking lot lamp and the distant thump of bass from the reception hall carried through the air. She blinked fast, like maybe she'd cry. But nothing came out. She was dry. Hollow. Like the marriage. I didn't mean for things to get like this. Another script. Another rehearsed excuse from the cheater's handbook. I just needed someone to talk to, she added. Softly now. I walked over to the car. Opened the driver's side. But before getting in, I turned back one last time. I get it, I said. You wanted to see what life looked like without me in the frame. Now you've got your preview. And then I drove away. Did I cry on the way home? No. I turned up the music. Drove in silence. Let the rage settle into something colder, calmer, more useful. Because something in me had changed, not snapped. Shifted. This wasn't over. This was the opening act. You know what they never tell you about betrayal? It doesn't come crashing through the door. It drips slow. A faucet leak. A perfume you don't recognize. A whisper on the phone that ends too quick. It's quiet, surgical, precise. And if you're not watching, it'll carve the bones out of your life before you even notice the limp. I noticed the limp. After I drove home from the wedding, I didn't cry. Didn't rage. I made a drink, one of the nice ones, top shelf, the kind I usually saved for holidays. I sat on the couch and thought about what had just happened. Not just the photos. Not just Brett in his overpriced suit. I thought about how she didn't flinch. How she didn't stop it. That's when I decided to stop waiting for the truth to crawl to me. I'd go dig it up myself. First stop, our shared laptop. It wasn't hard to guess her password. Still used the name of her high school crush, Charming. The same one I remember her giggling about at Thanksgiving 3 years ago. I had laughed then. It didn't feel funny now. Her email was clean. Too clean. No drafts, no deleted messages. She'd clearly been sweeping. But people always forget the corners. That's when I found the photo folder labeled Events. It was innocent at first glance. Images from birthdays, anniversaries, work parties. But tucked inside, dated 2 weeks before the wedding, was a selfie. She was in a hotel bathroom, hair still damp from the shower, a robe from the Ritz-Carlton loosely tied. In the mirror, half visible behind her, was a man's shoulder. Tanned. Shirtless. Muscular. Brett. She'd saved the picture under a generic name, ING_8721. Not even clever. Just careless. And if she was careless with that, what else had she left behind? I checked her texts next. She'd recently wiped the messages from Brett, but her iCloud still synced. Rookie mistake. All I had to do was sign in from my phone, and just like that, the archive spilled open like a confession booth kicked off its hinges. Tell your husband the gala went late again. You left your watch in my bag. Again. You looked incredible in that dress. Wish I was the one unzipping it. I took screenshots. Every single one. I made a folder. Labeled it Exhibit A. Then came the receipts. She'd used our joint card, bold move, to pay for champagne room service at the exact hotel from the photo. The date? Same night she told me she was at a planning meeting with her sister. I remembered that night. I'd made her dinner. She never showed. When she got home, she'd kiss me like nothing was wrong. Like I was still hers. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I did something she never expected from me. I smiled. Asked how her day was. Rubbed her shoulders while she scrolled on her phone, probably texting him while I was right behind her. Let her enjoy the lie. Because see, people like her? They don't believe a man like me can be calculating. They think if you don't explode, you're harmless. If you're quiet, you're broken. But I wasn't broken. I was focused. And I was done playing the fool. I didn't go looking for a fight. I went looking for a man who thought I didn't exist. Brett worked downtown, finance, of course. The kind of guy who wears designer shoes with no socks and calls his barber a stylist. I found him on LinkedIn in less than a minute. Assistant VP at a boutique wealth management firm. He even had a quote on his profile. Success is a mindset. Sure, buddy. So is arrogance. I waited 3 days. I watched my wife leave for her yoga class. Same outfit. Same mat. Same lie. Then I drove to the corner of 5th and Langston, just down from his office. I didn't tell her where I was going. Didn't need to. She thought I was at work, doing what I always did, holding up the sky while she danced in the storm. I was parked across the street in a spot the city meter forgot. Watched him come out, sunglasses on, sipping some overpriced oat milk nonsense. Walked like he owned the sidewalk. Like a man who hadn't just crawled into another man's marriage and made himself comfortable. I waited until he turned the corner toward the cafe. Got out. Walked up slow. Calm. Brett, I said. He turned. Smiled. Didn't recognize me at first. Yeah, I'm Jason. That smile? Gone. Just like that. His whole face stiffened, like a man who just realized he stepped on a landmine. Oh, hey. Jason. From, my wife's husband. A beat of silence. He licked his lips. Shifted his weight. Tried to summon a script, but I beat him to it. Relax, I said. This isn't a scene. I'm not here to scream or swing. I just want to ask you a question. He nodded, cautious. When did it start? I don't think. Don't lie. I'm giving you a chance. One chance. Be a man. Tell me the truth. He swallowed. Hard. looked around like the sidewalk might open up and swallow him. 6 months ago, he finally said. We ran into each other at a work event. She said you were distant, that she felt unseen. Unseen. Funny choice of words, considering how quick she was to push me out of the family photo. I nodded. So you saw her loneliness and thought, what a great time to sleep with someone else's wife. He looked away. No defense. No apology. Just cowardice wrapped in cologne. She told me she wasn't sure your marriage was even alive anymore, he muttered. Oh, it was alive, I said. You just fed it poison. He exhaled like he expected to be punched. Maybe he wanted it. Make me the monster. Give himself a clean narrative. But I didn't give him that luxury. Instead, I smiled. Cold and polite. The kind of smile that says, I know more than I'm letting on. She's not yours, I said. She never will be. You were just a detour she'll pretend was a dead end. He blinked. Wait, so you're not divorcing her? I didn't say that. Then what? I leaned in, just close enough. You made a mistake, Brett. Not because you crossed a line, but because you never even saw the boundaries. And people like you? You don't get away with things. Not really. You just forget the bill until it shows up years later with interest. Then I walked away. No threats. No shouting. Just silence, the kind that echoes louder than fists ever could. That night, I went home. My wife was already there, lighting candles like she was starring in a commercial for fake reconciliation. Hey, she said. I was thinking we should talk tonight. Clear the air. Sure, I said. Let's talk. But not the way she expected. She set the table. Candles, wine, our nice plates, the ones we only brought out when we wanted to pretend everything was still fine. She even put on music. Soft jazz. The kind you'd hear in a restaurant that charges you for tap water. She thought this was her scene. Her script. That I was the husband crawling back, desperate to fix what she'd broken. I took my seat. Quiet. Observant. She poured the wine. I let her. So she began, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. I feel like things have been tense lately. And maybe I haven't been. Fully present. Understatement of the decade. I nodded. You're right. You haven't. She blinked at how easily I agreed. That wasn't part of the script. I think I've just been stressed. Between work and my sister's wedding, and she trailed off, waiting for me to fill in the gaps. I didn't. Instead, I reached into my jacket and slid my phone across the table. Here, I said. She frowned. What's this? Go ahead. Open it. She picked it up, tapped the screen. There it was, the folder labeled Exhibit A, dozens of screenshots. Photos. Receipts. Timestamps. A highlight reel of infidelity, curated with precision. Her fingers froze. Her face paled. I was darting from one image to the next like she was hoping one of them might be fake. They weren't. I let the silence settle, thick and slow, like molasses poured over stone. You went through my stuff, she finally said, her voice tight. Oh, that's your angle? I chuckled, not bothering to hide the disgust. You cheat, lie, gaslight. But the problem is my lack of boundaries? She opened her mouth, then closed it. The words weren't coming anymore. Good. She'd had plenty. I know about the hotel, I said. The Ritz. Room 411. 2 weeks before the wedding. Her eyes widened, just slightly. Enough to confirm. And I know about Brett. His oat milk lattes. His text messages. His watch you forgot to return. Now the panic set in. Not guilt, fear. The fear of exposure. Of losing control of the story she'd written where she was the misunderstood wife and I was just the man who didn't get her anymore. She pushed the phone away, like it burned. I was lonely, she said, voice small. You stopped seeing me. No, I snapped. I stopped worshiping you. There's a difference. Tears welled up, finally. Whether they were real or part of her strategy, I didn't care. I leaned in. I loved you, I said, low and steady. Not perfectly, but honestly. I gave you loyalty, time, space. I gave you me. And you used that loyalty like a rope, not to pull us together, but to hang me quietly while you played pretend. She covered her mouth. A sob slipped out. And for a second, just 1 second, I felt something. Not sympathy. Not grief. Relief. Relief that the mask had finally cracked. You're not leaving? She whispered. I tilted my head. Oh, I'm leaving. But not in the way you think. I didn't storm out. That would have given her too much satisfaction. Let her think she still had power, that I was reacting from emotion. And people like her? They feed off the explosion. They wear the smoke like perfume. No, I left like a ghost. Silent, methodical, planned. The next morning, she woke up to an empty closet, mine. I'd taken only what mattered. My laptop, my documents, the black notebook where I'd been writing down every withdrawal she made from our joint account for the last 7 months. She still had her side of the bed, but it was cold now. Permanently. First stop, Elliot Granger, attorney at law. You don't just hire any divorce lawyer when your wife cheats. You hire the kind who smells blood before you say a word. Elliot wore a suit that cost more than my first car and had a reputation for slicing settlements like surgeons cut tumors. When I walked into his office with a flash drive labeled "Adultery Confirmed," he smiled like he'd just been served dessert. "You came prepared," he said. "I came to win," I replied. I laid it all out. The texts, the hotel bills, the surveillance-level digital trail she never expected me to find. Elliot didn't flinch. He just nodded like a man already building the case in his head. "We'll go the no-contest route," he said. "But we'll do it loud enough she knows she lost." Exactly what I wanted. Second stop, our bank. I froze the joint account, transferred my paychecks to a new one, left hers untouched temporarily. Let her think the game hadn't started yet. Let her swipe that card a few more times before the declined message pops up in public. At brunch. With Brett, maybe. I also pulled every receipt for things I'd paid for alone, the car in her name, her yoga membership, her birthday trip to Napa, the one she said meant everything, right before she snuck off to text her other everything under the table. Back home, she texted me. "Where are you? We need to talk. Jason, please. Don't do anything stupid." She always threw that line around when she wasn't in control. Don't do anything stupid. Translation: don't ruin the story I've been telling people about us. I didn't answer. I let the silence talk. Instead, I sent one thing, a copy of the divorce filing, with a little posted on top. Exhibit B, consequences. I moved into a short-term rental. Nothing fancy. Just enough space to breathe. You'd be surprised how good silence feels when you've spent years drowning in fake smiles and the clink of wine glasses over lies. I started sleeping again. Real sleep. The kind where you don't wake up wondering who she's texting, or what perfume she wore that day, or whether she's going to work late again. Meanwhile, she called, texted, emailed. I read them all. Didn't answer a single one. Because the damage wasn't the betrayal. It was the disrespect. And you don't heal from that by forgiving. You heal by removing the disease. You know what happens when the truth starts leaking? It doesn't spill. It seeps into cracks, conversations, side eyes at brunch. It starts as whispers. A friend who suddenly cancels dinner plans. A coworker who's a little too quiet in the break room. And then one day, you walk into a room and feel it. Everyone knows. I didn't even have to say much. Just gave Elliot the green light to file publicly. No gory details, no melodrama, just the kind of professional precision that stings harder than scandal. We didn't accuse. We documented. The filing noted irreconcilable differences, yes, but attached were digital timestamps, financial records, and an index of Exhibit A through G. It didn't take long for people to put it together. Claire was the first to call me. The same cousin who told me to stand against the wall. "Jason," she said, nervous. I didn't know. Didn't you?" I asked. She didn't reply. Just breathed into the phone like she wanted to apologize, but didn't know which part needed the most forgiveness. "I just want you to know," she said finally, "I think what you're doing, it's the right thing." Funny how fast loyalties shift when the smoke clears and the spotlight swings. 1 minute, you're the nobody. The next, you're the one with the receipts and the dignity she forgot to respect. Then came the unraveling. Brett disappeared. Ghosted her. Because of course he did. He wasn't built for consequences, just opportunity. And once that opportunity got hit with a court order for a deposition, poof. She showed up at my rental the next week. I didn't let her in. She stood at the doorway. No makeup, no glamour, just a worn-out expression and a crumpled tissue in her hand like it would soften the fact she'd burned the house down. "I never meant for it to go this far," she said. "I never meant to be a backup character in my own marriage," I replied. She flinched. "I was stupid," she whispered. "Selfish." Now that was the first honest thing she'd said in a long time. "I thought you'd fight for me," she added, voice trembling. "I did," I said, until I realized I was the only one in the ring. She looked down, tears falling now, late, too late. But what struck me wasn't the regret on her face. It was the shock. She truly believed I'd never walk away. That's the problem with people like her. They think quiet love is weak. They think patience is permission. They think that because you didn't rage, you'll never rise. But me? I rose. Not with noise. With clarity. With a lawyer. With evidence. With the kind of silence that shakes more than shouting ever could. 2 weeks after I filed, she started campaigning. That's what it was. A campaign, not of apology, not of accountability, but of damage control. First stop, mutual friends. Suddenly, I was hearing things like, "She's been seeing a therapist. She's trying to work on herself. She says she made a mistake, but it wasn't all her fault." Ah, there it was. That subtle pivot from, "I did a terrible thing," to "we grew apart." As if infidelity just happens like forgetting to buy milk. As if her hotel rendezvous with Brett was some poetic side effect of an unwatered marriage. Spare me. Then came the concerned texts from people who hadn't reached out in years. "Hey, man, I heard what's going on. Just wanted to say, maybe don't throw it all away." Every relationship has its seasons. Sure, some seasons just happen to involve room service for two and secret lingerie bills on a shared Amex. One guy, a mutual friend from her work crowd, had the audacity to say, "She told me you'd been emotionally unavailable." I nearly laughed. Unavailable? Buddy, I was more available than FedEx. I carried that relationship on my damn shoulders. I showed up. I cooked. I asked questions. I tried. I trusted. And she took that trust and used it like a rug. Wiped her feet on it on the way to Brett's penthouse. But then came the worst part, the family reach out. Her mother called me. Her mother. The same woman who barely acknowledged me at holidays unless it was to ask when I was going to make real money. "Jason," she said sweetly, "I know things look bad, but marriage is sacred. We all make mistakes." Funny. I don't remember any sacredness in the footage of her daughter crawling into another man's lap in a hotel lobby. I listened. Politely. Then I said, if she wanted sacred, she shouldn't have lit the altar on fire. Click. And then she tried the therapy trap. She emailed me a list of reconciliation specialists. Included a link to one's TED Talk titled, "Infidelity as a Path to Growth." I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the email to my lawyer, who added it to the folder labeled manipulation attempts. She wasn't trying to save the marriage. She was trying to save face. See, when someone gets caught like this, they don't mourn what they lost. They mourn what they can't control anymore. And I was no longer hers to guilt, steer, or silence. She wanted to meet in public. Some trendy coffee shop with overpriced scones and acoustic covers of 2000s pop songs. You know, a neutral zone. Less chance of a scene. Less chance I'd raise my voice or call her what she really was in front of strangers sipping oat milk cappuccinos. I agreed. Not because I had anything to say that needed delicate surroundings, but because she did. She needed the illusion, the performance, the audience. Even if they were just bored freelancers on laptops and baristas pretending to care. I arrived 5 minutes early. Took the seat facing the door. She walked in late, of course. Hair curled, sunglasses on, like she was shielding herself from the truth. Or maybe just from the look in my eyes. She sat, smiled faint, nervous, like someone trying to pet a dog they'd kicked the week before. "Thanks for coming," she said. "I didn't come for you," I replied. "I came for closure." She winced. Good. She launched in fast. No warm-up. Just one long, breathless ramble, therapy, healing, how she's finally seeing her patterns. The word growth came up 3 times. Rebuild, twice. Love, once, whispered, like she thought it still held weight. Then the kicker. "I'm not asking you to forget what I did. I'm asking you to see who I'm trying to become." I let her finish. Let her believe, for a whole minute, that this was still salvageable. That the right combination of regret and well-rehearsed humility might undo what she spent months unraveling behind my back. Then I leaned forward. Calm. Clear. Cold. "You know what's funny?" I said. "You're treating this like it's an audition. As if there's still a role to win. But the curtain closed. You just never heard the applause stop." She stared. I continued, voice low enough to make her lean in. "I didn't come here to negotiate. I came to confirm what you already know. It's over. Legally. Emotionally. Permanently." She blinked fast. Like maybe she'd cry. But no tears. Just the tremble of someone watching their last card get burned in front of them. "You don't get to cheat and then curate a redemption arc," I said. "You don't get to rewrite the ending after you scorch the middle." "I made a mistake," she tried. "No," I cut in. "You made choices. Over and over. You chose to lie. You chose to sneak. You chose him." I reached into my coat pocket. pulled out a plain white envelope, placed it on the table between us. This is the final agreement. I already signed. You just need to read it. Sign it. And let it go. She didn't touch it. She just stared at it like it was radiating heat. I never meant to hurt you, she whispered. I nodded. You didn't mean to get caught. Let's not confuse the two. She left the envelope sitting there when she walked out. Didn't even say goodbye. Just stood, smoothed her dress, and exited the same way she'd walked into our marriage, polished, practiced, and convinced she was still in control. But that envelope? It stayed right where I put it. Signed. Final. Non-negotiable. You ever watch someone try to retell a story after they've been caught? They stumble. They skip chapters. They rewrite entire characters. Suddenly, the cheating wife becomes the neglected partner. The affair becomes a moment of weakness. And you, the husband left bleeding under the weight of loyalty, become controlling, distant, emotionally unavailable. But here's the problem with that kind of fiction. Eventually, the audience walks out. It started slowly. Friends she once dazzled with brunch photos and couple selfies started asking questions she couldn't deflect. Wait, wasn't that your husband's suit in that hotel pic? I thought Jason paid for that trip to the coast? You said you were working that night. She'd smile. Say things like, it's complicated. But complicated only works as an excuse when the truth stays buried. And I'd done my digging. Claire? The one who told me to stand aside? She stopped returning her texts. Apparently, once the wedding photos were posted and Brett cropped out, Claire got real quiet. Real aware. Especially when people started noticing I wasn't in a single shot, but Brett was. Funny how quickly family lines dissolve when reputations are at stake. Then came her coworkers. She built this whole persona at work. Dedicated wife, holding things together while her husband struggled with communication. But it only took one shared post, my post, for the cracks to show. I didn't write a rant. I didn't name names. I just posted a quote, along with a photo of me moving into my new place. Sometimes you don't leave someone because you stopped loving them. You leave because they stopped loving you with honesty. 3,000 likes. Dozens of messages. Half from people I barely remembered, saying some version of. I always wondered how you put up with her. Turns out, I wasn't the only one who'd seen through her. I was just the last one to admit it. And Brett? Gone. Vanished. Changed jobs. Deleted social media. My lawyer later told me he'd been strongly advised to distance himself from anything that could be considered willful interference in a legal union. Apparently, his new firm didn't appreciate scandal headlines. He quietly disappeared back into whatever expensive shadow he crawled out of. She tried reaching him, I'm sure. Probably sent the same late-night text she used to send me when things were good. But snakes don't stay where the fire's burning. One night, I got a message from her best friend. We'd never been close. But she wrote, I just want you to know. I believed her at first. I really did. But then I saw what you posted, and I remembered all the things she used to say. You deserved better. You still do. I didn't reply. Didn't need to. The message wasn't for conversation. It was confirmation that the story she tried to tell had collapsed under its own weight. That slowly, subtly, quietly. She was being erased from the picture. Not by force. Not by revenge. By reality. You know what they don't show you in those breakup movies? The after. Not the crying, not the bar scenes, not the I found myself on a yoga retreat nonsense. I'm talking about the real after. The part where you wake up one morning, alone, and realize you feel something you haven't felt in months. Peace. No phone buzzing with excuses. No forced small talk over dinner. No second-guessing yourself because the woman across the table used to look at you like you were her whole world, and now only sees you as background noise. I didn't just survive. I was rebuilding. The rental I'd moved into? Yeah, it was temporary, but it became mine in ways the old house never was. No echo of betrayal in the walls. No scent of someone else's cologne clinging to the sheets I bought. I started waking up early. Gym, black coffee, fresh air. Not to prove anything. Just to remind myself I had a pulse, and it wasn't tied to her validation. I updated my resume. Reached out to a few contacts who remembered what I was capable of before she turned me into her supporting character. 2 interviews. 1 offer. I took it. Better hours. Better pay. No one there called me her husband. And then came the box. Left on my doorstep one morning. No note. Inside? A bundle of photographs. Some from our wedding. Some from our trips. The one of us standing in front of our first apartment. I was holding her in my arms, and she was laughing. She used to laugh like that. Before the distance. Before the lies. I looked at the box for a long time. Then I burned it. Not out of anger. Not to erase the past. But because some memories aren't worth archiving. They're just ghosts wearing smiles. You want to know the wildest part? People started telling me I looked younger. Happier. Lighter. Like I'd stepped out from under a storm cloud and didn't even know I'd been soaking wet for years. It was never about getting revenge on her. It was about reclaiming me. My time. My name. My future. She still sends emails sometimes. Stuff like, "Hope you're well. I saw something today that reminded me of you. You'll always have a place in my heart." I don't reply. I don't need to. Because silence? That's the sound of freedom. It was bound to happen. Eventually, the story she spun stopped sticking. People started comparing notes, timelines, receipts, and one by one, the little myth she told to protect herself began to fall apart. The therapist? Dropped her. The Healing Journey podcast she launched? 5 episodes in, comments disabled. The friends who nodded sympathetically during her confessionals? Gone. Quiet. Tired of being extras in her victim complex. Because here's the thing about truth. You can bend it, delay it, distract from it, but eventually it grows teeth. I heard about the final unraveling from someone who still spoke to both of us, neutral territory. Apparently, she'd been at a dinner party. New crowd, post-divorce acquaintances. Trying to repackage the affair as a necessary evolution. She launched into it, the speech I'm sure she'd rehearsed 100 times. It wasn't ideal, but I had to choose myself. Jason and I, we were stuck. Then someone she didn't know well, tilted their head and asked, "Is it true he supported you through grad school? Paid for that trip to Italy?" She blinked, nodded cautiously. "And he paid for the mortgage, the car, your medical stuff when you had that surgery?" Another nod. So what exactly was missing? And right there, in the soft clink of silverware and wine glasses, her story died. Because no matter how many times you rehearse the script, someone's going to read the stage directions. She tried reaching out again. This time, not with guilt, with nostalgia. A voicemail. "Hey, I saw this old couple today, walking hand in hand through the park. And I thought of us. What we used to talk about. I just hope you're okay. That you're happy. I listened once, then deleted it. Because the truth is, I am happy. I'm free from the tension, the questioning, the dull, slow death of trust. And she's trapped in a maze of her own design, running in circles, chasing a version of herself that doesn't exist anymore. She thought she was the sun, and I'd orbit her forever. But I wasn't her planet. I was her mirror. And now that I'm gone, she can't stand her own reflection. The final blow didn't come from me. It came from someone she never expected to speak. Because some people are quiet until they've seen enough. In this case, her sister. Yep, the same one whose wedding she hijacked. The one who watched me get sidelined at the photo op. While Brett, the affair in a suit, stood where I should have. Turns out, she saw more than I realized. I got a message one night, short, unexpected. "Jason, can we talk?" I didn't respond right away. Thought it might be a trap. Maybe her sister was doing recon, damage control. But something told me to call. So I did. Her voice was hesitant, but steady. "I owe you an apology." That got my attention. She explained how she'd bought into the narrative at first. That I was cold, distant, married to my work. She said Claire and the others echoed it until it felt like fact. But watching you that day, standing by the wall, holding your coat like it was armor, I knew something was off. She told me what she'd seen. Not just at the wedding, but before. Late-night texts. Strange phone calls. How my wife used to disappear at odd hours, claiming event planning duties. How Brett just seemed to show up more and more, always invited by her, never questioned. I thought it was weird, she said, but I didn't want to rock the boat. And I'm sorry for that. You didn't deserve what she did to you. I just listened. Because here's the thing. I didn't need the apology. But I respected the honesty. She told me she'd confronted her, finally. After the divorce filing. After the friends faded. After Brett went ghost and her little house of curated tragedy started crumbling. She asked my ex straight up, "Why did you do it?" The answer? A shrug. I just felt like I could. No remorse. No reflection. Just entitlement. Like cheating with some self-care routine. That was the moment her sister chose sides. Not with a speech. Not with a social media post. But in a much quieter, colder way. She cut her off. Stopped inviting her to family events. told the truth when people asked, not out of vengeance, but out of respect for what's real. She saw the wreckage and chose not to defend the arsonist. It didn't fix anything. It didn't rewind time, but it felt vindicating that someone else, someone who saw it from the inside, finally called it what it was. Not a mistake, not a breakdown, not a season, a betrayal, plain and simple. She always thought she had the last word. She counted on it, the final message, the final rewrite, the final plea whispered through gritted teeth to anyone who'd listen. He walked away from me. I was just lost. He gave up on us. But what she never understood was this. I didn't walk away from her. I walked toward myself. It started small. New journal. Blank pages. No names, no stories, no apologies. Just thoughts. Intentions. Plans. Then came the gym. Not to glow up or chase validation, but to feel something real. The ache in my legs, the fire in my lungs, it reminded me that I exist. That I'm not just a memory in someone else's rerun romance. Then the side project. That old idea I shelved years ago when she said, it's not the right time. The app. The one I used to stay up sketching on napkins when she'd already gone to bed texting clients. I launched it. Quietly. Cleanly. It picked up traction. A few users. Then a few hundred. Then a call from an investor. Apparently, what I built in the shadows of our marriage was something people actually needed. Imagine that. One night, I drove past our old house. It looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, just spiritually. A home stripped of its meaning. A shelf full of things we used to pretend made us happy. The porch light was off. No signs of life. I sat there for a minute. No anger. No longing. Just peace. And then I drove away, without looking back. She texted again. This time, just 3 words. Do you hate me? I stared at the screen. Not out of temptation, but consideration. It would be easy to say yes. To unleash everything she'd earned. To let her feel every ounce of pain she'd deflected. But I didn't. Because hate is a leash. And I'd already cut the rope. So I wrote 1 word. Only one. No. Then I deleted her number. Because forgiveness isn't always about them. Sometimes, it's just the key that unlocks the final door out. It came full circle, just like life does when you finally stop trying to force it into shapes it was never meant to hold. A year had passed. The ink on the divorce was dry. The photos were long deleted. The ring? Sold. Donated the money. Bought a set of high-end tools and built a damn workbench in my new garage. Something useful. Something mine. That day, I got an invitation in the mail. Embossed. Heavy paper. Gold lettering. Her sister's baby shower. Not a wedding this time. No dress code. No photographer waiting to crop me out. Just a quiet reminder of how far I'd come, and maybe a test. Was I still in the family photo? I went. Not for her. Not to prove anything. I went because I was invited. And more importantly, I didn't feel like hiding anymore. She was there. Of course she was. Hair different. Makeup lighter. That forced calm in her voice that people wear when they're trying not to unravel in public. She spotted me across the room, froze. I nodded once. Nothing more. No smile. No venom. Just a fact. I exist. She didn't come over. Didn't say a word. Because she finally understood. She was no longer the sun. And I wasn't orbiting anything. I talked to her sister. Congratulated her. Gave her a handmade gift I'd spent a weekend crafting in the workshop, the one built from the ashes of my past. She hugged me. Real. Sincere. Said something soft into my ear. I'm glad you came. It means a lot. On the way out, I passed the photo table. Baby pictures. Sonograms. Family snapshots in glossy frames. And then I saw one, a new one, from that same wedding where I'd once been told to stand against the wall. But this time, I wasn't cropped out. I wasn't even in it. Because they'd taken a new one. A new photo. A new memory. With the real family. The ones who showed up. The ones who stayed true. I didn't feel bitter. I didn't feel erased. I felt free. Walking to my car, the breeze was cool. Quiet. Settled. I thought about the man I used to be standing by that wall, holding my breath, hoping someone would remember I was part of the story. And I smiled. Because now, I write my own story. No walls. No sidelines. No waiting for a place in the picture. I make the frame.